Good morning, or good morning. Oh my gosh. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock on Friday, the 13th of November of 2020. And me starting out with the wrong salutation is probably everything we need to know about that. Welcome to the Friday live stream. We've had a couple weeks off, so maybe we're a little bit out of routine. We had last week off for parent conferences, a week off before because site PD day, but we're back. And we're better than ever, and we have presenters. It's going to be amazing. So this week's topic is Zearn with Kim Jorgensen, our math TOSA, and we are happy to welcome Ashley and Lexi from Zearn Math. Before we get to that, just a couple of things. Happy Friday? Question mark. I don't know. Hopefully your Friday the 13th of 2020. Like hopefully that's not an exponential magnifier on Friday the 13th. We also, if you haven't seen it yet, but you may have seen some of your students with it, Meet did roll out a new feature, which is virtual backgrounds. And you see it's where the blur used to be. There's also a second depth of blur. So before there was sort of a light blur, and then now there's a real heavy blur, so you can barely make anything out in the back. And then the new virtual backgrounds. Custom backgrounds are not available for education until we can control what students put on in their background. But they are just under your three dots. Go to change background. You can pick from the ones you like. We hear from some teachers where students are using them already, that more of their students are coming on camera now that they have a way to block out what people can see in the background. So hopefully that leads to more engagement and students able to express their personality and individuality a little bit more. And we know that whenever there's a new shiny, the kids always want to play with it. So those are all of our announcements. We say every time, if you need any EdTech help, please email us at edtech@alisal.org. Instead of our individual email accounts, it goes to the whole department. And don't forget, Wednesdays and Thursdays, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. is open office hours with George and Celia. Yay, George and Celia. And there's the bit.ly link. It's also in the EdTech weekly newsletter. So now that I've talked really fast and run through just a few little breadcrumbs, why don't we welcome Kim with Ashley and Lexi to take over. Kim, Ashley, Lexi, you are welcome to take over presenting whenever you feel like it. Welcome to the live stream. We are so happy to hear from you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to put up this, oh wait, let me do this right. Put up the agenda real fast. I remember how to do this.
Present.
Yes.
And take over.
Like you said, we've been off for a while. Okay, so. And then the inevitable question, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so Ashley and Lexi are from Zearn, and they're going to take over the rest of this. I just wanted to show you briefly what we're going to be covering today. We have a partnership with Zearn, which gives us lots more goodies. And Ashley and Lexi are going to tell you about the goodies and why you might want to use the goodies. And just going to give you a few more seconds here to kind of see what it is they're going to cover, mostly based on the questions that you turned into the form, those of you who were kind enough to reply. Okay, I'm going to stop presenting and let Lexi and Ashley take over.
Perfect, thanks, Kim. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. While I do, I'm actually going to turn off my camera just so I can make sure my bandwidth stays nice and large on a Friday the 13th. I'm going to share my window. Give me 1 sec to get it loading. I'm going to share across a couple different tabs. And Josh, I'm going to look for your okay once you tell me you're seeing what I see.
I see what you see.
Perfect. Okay, so as Kim alluded to, we're going to go through a number of topics today. So we're going to talk probably as quickly as Josh did, but we're going to try to make it as coherent and comprehensive as possible. Of course, as questions come in after the session or during the session, we are more than happy to answer them. We are here to support you all throughout the year. So this is just a kind of a getting started, and hopefully it's a helpful way for you guys to get up and running with Zearn, particularly with your new accounts, and take advantage of all the new resources you have available to you. So let me start with just a quick review. And again, for those of you who are very familiar with Zearn, oh, hold on, my camera's still on, so it's going to slow me down. Let me turn that off again. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So for those of you who are more familiar with Zearn, hopefully this feels like a nice review. Let me go into present mode so you can see nice and large. For those of you who are new to Zearn, hopefully this should give you a starting point. There are lots of resources that I'll point you to if you want to get more introductory materials. But again, I'm just going to spend just a minute on that introductory stuff. So as a reminder, as you guys know well, hopefully, Zearn Math Digital Lessons are designed to be a lesson level companion to your core instruction with Eureka Math. So this is designed to sit alongside your instruction with Eureka Math and provide opportunities for additional review and practice. The digital lessons follow the scope and sequence of Eureka Math, and there is a digital lesson for essentially every day of K-5 instruction. The digital lessons are designed to be an excellent resource that can be used for anything from asynchronous learning time, in centers while waiting for small group instruction, as homework, as a way to send homework home, as Kim says, with a teacher. It's a great way for students to review, practice, and receive personalized remediation on the same lesson content that you're teaching. So again, it's not designed to replace your teaching or take away from your teaching. It's designed to sit alongside it and provide an opportunity for students to continue to re-engage with that same curriculum content in an interactive web-based activities. So I'm going to talk for just a minute about what the components of the digital lessons look like. And then we're going to spend just literally a minute looking at one example before we spend most of our time in the website exploring the new resources. So each digital lesson, and I'm going to focus first on grades 1 through 5, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about kindergarten. In grades 1 to 5, there are a couple different components of a digital lesson. There are fluency activities, there's guided practice, and then there's independent practice. You can see the timing associated with each activity down below. Altogether, if you sum that up, it'll be about 30 minutes. So each digital lesson takes about 30 minutes to complete. The fluency activities are split into 2. They're designed to be dynamic and practice number sense skills, as well as build automaticity or provide an on-ramp to upcoming content. Throughout all of the fluency activities, students get real-time feedback and support as they need it. And that information is summarized for you in some of your reports, which we'll look at shortly. But again, just a short opening experience with fluency. Both some of it is adaptive number sense, and most of it is grade level aligned. The second component, which is the heart of the digital lesson, is this guided practice. You can think about this as an interactive concept development with a guided instruction through a camera, through an on-camera teacher, video pause points with checks for understanding, interactive math manipulatives, personalized feedback. All that is embedded into this, what we call a guided practice, and there's a lot of different types of these. And again, this is designed to mirror what's happening in your concept development. Finally, the last activity of a digital lesson is the independent practice. For those of you who are more familiar with Zearn, this is the Tower of Power, and it comes to be known by name pretty quickly. The Tower of Power is a digital activity at the end of the digital lesson that is designed to not only continue to support practice, so you can think it's embedding some of those problem set problems, but it's really designed to assess a student's understanding of that lesson's objective. So the best way to think about the independent practice or the Tower of Power is it is a digital exit ticket. Students cannot move on to the next lesson until they complete this Tower of Power correctly, and you will receive information in your reports, which we'll show you shortly, on how you can see if a student is struggling and or stuck in the Tower of Power. Again, as students work through these, they will continue to receive real-time remediation and foundational support as they struggle. Just as a reminder, and I think this is apparent for most folks, but I just wanted to retouch on this idea of how this is aligned to your instruction one more time, because it is important. So just for a reminder, Zearn is based on the OER Engage New York. It's the same OER that Eureka Math is based on. So in other words, Zearn Math, Eureka Math, and Engage New York are all based on the same underlying OER and instructional content. So Zearn follows the same scope and sequence, the same models, the same terminology as these curricula. It even follows the same lesson structure. So as a lesson in Zearn is aligned to the same instructional content as a lesson in Eureka Math. So for example, in Zearn, grade 3, mission 1, lesson 6 is aligned to the same grade 3, module 1, lesson 6 in Eureka Math. You might have noticed I referred to a unit in Zearn as a mission. That's just what we call a module to be a little bit more student friendly. But again, a mission in Zearn is the same thing as a module in Eureka Math. and is a lesson by lesson alignment. So if you're teaching lesson 6 in Eureka, lesson 6 in Zearn is aligned to that same content. So it is designed to sit lesson by lesson alongside your instruction. Okay, with that in mind, I'm going to get out of the slides and I'm going to spend the rest of the time in the website. I'm just going to check back in on the Google Meet real quick and make sure everything's still coming through. Great. Okay, so again, just a quick overview. What I want to do from here is spend most of the time in the website. So I have logged into my Zearn account. Please keep in mind, many of you have individual accounts from using Zearn in the past. There is a new account for you to log into, and I'm going to talk about the differences for just a moment. So we went from having an individual account, which you signed up for on your own. You manually rostered yourself and your own students, and you were responsible for managing those rosters throughout the year, adding, removing, editing students. As we move into this district account, which your district now has, there are a number of new features that are available to you in that account. So it is important. They are 2 separate accounts. Your individual account is not the same as your district account. You have a district account that is specific through your district portal. So let's talk about a couple of the differences, and we're going to continue to point them out as we go throughout the session. But I just want to kind of highlight a couple of the differences, if nothing else, to hopefully compel you to move out of your individual account and into your district account. So first, and at a very high level, there are a number of new resources that are available to you in your district account. I'm going to walk through those in a minute, but it's everything from foundational guidance at the mission level, learning recovery resources, a whole set of training materials that you can access. All of those exist through your school account, but not in your individual account. In addition, in your school account, which is another way to say your district account, you have a new report at the student level. You do not have this in your individual account. So a detailed student level report that can be printed or sent to parents or used with parents or used to get a better sense of individual students and their needs. All of that sits within the district account, but not in your individual account. So again, important to make that shift over. On the rostering side, where you used to manually roster your students and manage that yourselves, all of that is automated for you now. So all of that is automated through your district Clever portal. You don't need to worry about setting up your accounts or managing your rosters. Students account roll over seamlessly from year to year. It is much simpler to use through the district account. So again, one more plea to kind of shift over to your district account. Keep in mind, students are accessing lots of applications through their Clever portal. So it's keeping them in the same area. They can access Zearn from that same spot. So again, it's just kind of moving everything over to more of the district focus versus you managing it all yourself. There are also some differences in your classroom setup. So in your individual account, you are limited in how big your classroom is and how many classes you have. In your district account, none of those limitations exist. So again, hopefully we've kind of painted the picture of why your district account has a lot more stuff for you and is easier to use than your individual account. Again, they are 2 totally separate accounts. So you do need to be logging into the right place to be getting those additional resources and benefits. We'll talk in a minute about how you can see where you're logging in and whether your students are rostered to your class. So I'll come back to that idea in a second. Before I do that, I just want to start by orienting folks to the resources that are available to you. So here I am on my homepage. I have logged in. I am logging in as a demo account. For you, you would be logging in as your district account. One of the ways that you can tell whether you're in the right account is this little tag right here. So mine says demo. Yours will say school account. So if you're not logging into the place that says school account, you will not see a little tag that says in green school account. If you're logging into the right place, you will see this little tag right here. So that's one surefire way to know whether you're logging into the right place. So here I am, I've landed in my account, and there's a couple things I want to point out. Hopefully this looks very familiar for those who are familiar to Zearn. The idea is not to make it a lot harder to use. So a lot of the things that you're used to seeing still exist. You'll notice we still have our tabs for curriculum and reports. And again, we'll look at these in more depth. Roster, as always, continues to be where you're going to look at your student rosters and where you can change assignments. There are some differences with the district account that I'll point out when we look in there. On our homepage, there's a number of resources in here. I won't go through all of this because for most of it, it's something you can peruse on your own. But one important thing I did want to point out here is down in the bottom left corner here where it says try Zearn Math as a student. This is a really nice way just to get a quick demo account to walk through maybe modeling for your students or just to get an understanding of what the student experience feels like, you can do that in this bottom left corner. Okay, we're going to go through everything in more detail. I just want to do a quick orientation to the page that I'm on. So let's start by doing this. I'm going to jump into curriculum, and I'm going to point out a couple of resources, both new and old, that you can use throughout the year to support your instruction. So by clicking on curriculum, you'll see I have a couple different approaches here. I'm going to start by going into a specific grade and a specific mission. Again, a mission is a module. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit of a kid-friendlier way to say module. And actually, let me step back 1 second. I'm going to go to the overview first. So this is the 3rd grade overview page. One thing I do want to point out here are these new set of resources right here called Learning Recovery. So what is Learning Recovery? Learning Recovery is something that we did in response to the school closures earlier this year and continues to be important as we think about disrupted learning experiences throughout last year and through this year. The Learning Recovery sequence is designed to support students with critical content from prior grade levels that they might have had a disrupted experience with. You may not use this at all, but I just wanted to highlight that this does exist if it's helpful to you. It simply takes the grade 3 scope and sequence and considers what content from prior grades would fit into the content to make sure that students have the critical foundational materials they need before moving into critical grade level content. So you can see we've emphasized some module 6 from grade 2, module 7, and module 8 to incorporate at specific times throughout the grade level year. And again, it's designed just to ensure that students have the most critical content as they're working through grade level work. Of course, if we're adding in content from last year, that also means we have to take away content from grade level. So again, this is not to suggest you need to follow this specific pacing, but again, just give you some guidance on how we think about bringing in critical content from last year. You'll notice as you scroll through here, we've made specific recommendations on what lessons to keep and what lessons to deprioritize. Again, I won't go through this in detail, but you can just get a sense of what we're suggesting students focus on from some of those earlier grade levels. This exists for every grade. I am simply on grade 3 overview, but you'll see that if you went to grade 4, the same overview page exists, and it exists in this exact same spot. So this is a resource that is new for this year. As I move from the grade level overview into the mission page, hopefully this page looks really familiar to you. There are a couple of new things that I want to point out. So on this mission page, there are these paper and pencil assessments here. You will likely just use these from Eureka Math, but again, if you're curious to see what our mid and end of module or mission assessments look like, they are right here if you want to see them. Those are not available in your individual account. A big new feature here is in the foundational content. You have always seen at the mission level, but there is a new resource, which we're going to look at in depth alongside reports, called Foundational Lesson Guidance. This is a mission or module level resource that indicates for every topic specific and critical lessons from prior grades to support students when they struggle. So for every mission, we've gone through and identified the critical content that you can use for extra practice or intervention to support students as they struggle in a specific unit and topic that you're teaching. So again, we'll look at this in more detail and talk about how to use it alongside the reports. But I do want to point out that this resource only exists in your district page. So if you're not seeing it, make sure you're logging into the right place. As you all know well, there are a number of printed materials here. Essentially, you can skip these. These are from some of our users who are using instructional materials. If you're familiar with the digital lessons, you'll know there's a paper and pencil component. If you wanted to print those out, you can from here. Most folks, particularly in a remote environment, just use blank paper, and that works great. As always, as I scroll down below, I have access to all parts of the independent digital lesson. So if I expand all lessons, that'll just break it all out for me. And you'll see this same structure that we looked at a minute ago in that overview slide, where we're looking at 2 opening fluency activities for every lesson, a guided practice, and an independent practice. Again, this follows the same structure that we looked at a minute ago, but now you're seeing it for every lesson. You'll notice that there are different activities, sometimes for fluency, Discovery Canyon versus a sprint, and guided practice, math chat, and learning lab. This is all just designed to best support the content and keep it engaging and interesting for students. You'll notice there is a bonus question that students can choose to work on if it's a good fit for them, but they do not need to. It is not a requirement. So one thing I would highly encourage if you're new to Zearn, and one thing we won't use our time on today, but if you're new to Zearn and you want to get a better sense of how these digital activities align to your instruction or what even happens in a digital activity, I would highly encourage simply going into your account. Again, make sure you go in through your district's portal, which is rostered through Clever, and go to this curriculum page, pick your grade and a mission or unit that you're teaching, and go play around with some of these activities. In particular, the guided practice, as I mentioned, is the heart of the digital lesson. This is the place where I would encourage spending the most time because it will give you the best sense of how this overlaps with your instruction. Just as a very quick example, I'm going to show you one very short piece of a math chat just so you can get a sense of what happens in a guided practice, and then we'll keep going from there. I actually had one open right here, so I'm going to, hopefully my sound will come through. Tell me if it doesn't.
It doesn't come through. I think you have to share the tab to hear the audio.
I thought I did that. Well, why don't I do this? For sake of time, I will skip this. Hopefully what I just want you to see here is that as these guided practice kick off, there is a video instruction with an on-camera teacher. All of these circles down here represent checkpoints. So these are forced pause points. So we're embedding pause points throughout the experience. They happen every 10, 15, 20 seconds. And these are where students are going to engage with digital manipulatives. Again, all of the manipulatives in here are designed to align to the manipulatives that you're using in your instruction. So this is just a way for students to, again, engage in similar instruction to what you're doing, whether that's for homework, whether that's as a review, whether it's during asynchronous time, but it's a way to kind of continue with that same instructional content and get that review and practice, and most importantly, that personalized remediation as they struggle. So I would highly encourage, if you're not as familiar with the resources, definitely pick some content, particularly the guided practice, watch some of those videos, work through some of those checkpoints, make mistakes, see how the remediation paths come into play. And then follow it up by doing the Tower of Power. And the Tower of Power, again, is that digital exit ticket where we're assessing students' understanding of that lesson's objective. Okay, so we spent some time on the curriculum page. So one other thing I wanted to touch on before we move into rosters is how this experience feels for kindergarten, because kindergarten is a bit different. As you can imagine, based on the developmental needs of kindergarten students, they do have a different experience. So in kindergarten, the lessons look a bit different. In grades 1 to 5, they take about 30 minutes to complete, and they have 4 components. Kindergarten digital activities, on the other hand, are about 10 minutes each, and they're designed to build foundational number sense skills, focusing on the core learning of kindergarten. And again, they're still using the same models and vocabulary as they do when they're learning with you. So I'm going to jump into kindergarten. I'm going to go to my overview page, and I'm going to click on my digital activities right here. So there's about 170 digital activities that are designed with youngest learners in mind. The activities have a bit of a more game-like feel and about 10 minutes each. Again, knowing most kindergarten students don't have the stamina to work independently for a full 30-minute lesson. So these activities, which are grouped by number ranges, numbers to 5, 10, 15, and 20, can be used as a really important digital companion to your instruction and provide critical support to students in both building stamina to work independently and emphasizing critical skills such as essential number sense, sequencing, composition and decomposition, counting all, and gradually moving to counting on so they're ready for first grade. Again, I'm not going to look at any of these activities just for sake of time, but I would encourage that if you're a kindergarten teacher, definitely jump in and start with some of the earlier activities and then move into some of the higher range activities so that you can see the progression from things like level 1 strategy of counting all to the level 2 strategy of counting on. You can even see how some of the important models come into these activities, things like the familiar 5 frame to make 5. Again, just as an opportunity to see how this would connect to your instruction. They're designed to be used more flexibly. They don't need to sit lesson level like they do in grades 1 to 5, but they are still really wonderful digital activities for kindergarten students to work through. Okay, I know I'm going fast and furious. Hopefully, folks are still following along. So again, we've spent most of our time talking about the curricular resources, highlighting some of the new resources, and we'll look at some of those a little bit more depth as we get to reports. Before we jump into reports, which is where we'll spend the bulk of the time, the last thing I want to highlight is the roster page. So as I mentioned before, many of you should be familiar with the roster. You can ignore these couple first steps I'm taking. I'm coming as an admin account. When you jump on your roster page, you'll land here. So this is your class roster page. So again, I'm in a demo account. I'm not in your district's Clever account. So my roster page looks a little bit different than yours would, but it's all focused on the same idea. This is where you can get information about the students who are rostered to your class, as well as change students' assignment. So there's really two things you do on your roster page. Check to make sure that you have the right students rostered to your class, and make sure that students are set to the right assignment. So the first thing I do, particularly as you're moving into your district account for the first time, is I jump on my roster page and I just take a look at my class roster. Is this the right set of students? Is anyone missing? Again, if there is, this is something we'd fix at the district level. So this is something where, again, you're not responsible for adding or maintaining or managing these accounts. It is all automatically done for you. But doing a quick check just to make sure you see the right students is definitely a good first step. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll notice I have this group down here called 7 students have not joined your class. That simply means they have not logged in through their Clever or district portal account yet. So again, I would just encourage, right now when you log in, you will see most of your students who have not joined your class. As they start logging in, more and more of them will move to this top section. And this is a group of students who down here, over time, you just want to make sure this gets down to 0. And if students are continuing to stay in this bucket, just make sure that they're logging in, again, through their district portal account as well. Okay, so once you've checked your rosters, the other thing that you want to do from here is to assign them to the right lesson. So as we've talked about, the digital lessons are designed to sit alongside your instruction. That means that the assignment for students in Zearn is designed to be aligned to what you're teaching. It does not need to be at the exact lesson level. If it is, that's great, but it is perfectly okay if you're teaching in lesson 6 and students are working on lesson 4 or 3 or 7. So as long as students are clustered around your instruction, they're going to still have a very connected experience. So let's say you're getting started with your district account for the first time, or maybe you're getting started with Zearn for the first time. What you want to do is go into your roster page when you get started and set them to the content that you want them to work on. So as I'm moving in here, I can select individual students, as I'm doing here. I could change the lesson just for those 4 students I've selected, or I could select all students using this box up at the top. I'm going to select change lesson, and I'm going to move them to their specific assignment. So let's say I want them to work in grade 3, mission 1, topic A, lesson 1. So I'm moving them to the first lesson of the unit that I'm just about to start teaching. If you're teaching in unit 4, we go through the same process. So again, as you're moving into a new unit, your students need to move alongside you. So you're going to set students to the lesson that is aligned to your instruction. You'll monitor your reports to make sure that students are continuing to progress through those lessons. And as you get ready to move into the new unit of teaching, you want to make sure that students move along with you. Some students may have automatically completed all of the content and will automatically move alongside you. Others may not complete all of the content in time, and you would need to move them using this assignment option. So let's talk for a minute about the student assignment and what works best. So again, because of the alignment with your core curriculum, you really want students working on content that you're teaching. As students complete digital lessons, they are automatically moved on to the next lesson. So if you assign them to lesson 1 and they work through that lesson successfully, they are automatically moved into lesson 2. You do not need to move their assignments every day. So you do not need to go in every day to your roster page and move them from one lesson to the next. They will automatically move from one lesson as they complete them successfully. Keep in mind, they do need to complete all parts, and they do need to complete the Tower of Power in full and accurately in order to move on, but they will keep moving on without you having to intervene. Again, the only time where we would encourage intervening is that if you're moving on to a new unit, that you move students alongside with you. Ideally, as you're moving through that unit in your own instruction, you're using the Zearn reports, which we're going to look at together in a minute, to make sure that students are roughly staying on pace with you and getting through that content so that by the end of the unit, you're not surprised that students haven't completed, 95% of the content. Again, those reports are designed to help you in real time, make sure that students are able to progress through those digital lessons. And there's a couple really important reports that we'll point out in a moment. Okay. So we've talked about the curriculum resources. We've talked about the roster and how you can see students who are assigned to your class and assign them to specific lessons. One more set of resources I'm going to point out, and then I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Lexi, who's going to walk through reports. As you're thinking about looking for more resources or wanting more information, I did want to point out this the school account resource page, which is something that's only available to district partners. Kim does have this page, and we'll make sure that you have it as well. Essentially, what this includes are a number of different training sessions and tutorials that you can use to continue to support getting familiar with Zearn. So you'll see there's lots of things on class reports, on how to use the digital resources, on new features that focus more on intervention. There's parent resources in here, remote trainings for parents to use, both in English and Spanish, parent packs in English and Spanish, Zearn helpers that you could use. At the bottom, you'll see shorter videos, an overview of the digital lessons, an overview of the student experience, tutorial and teacher reports. So lots of different ways to engage with more information on how to use Zearn. So again, I'll put this in the chat, assuming I can do that. It is password protected. Again, it is only available for district accounts, which you guys have. So I will put this into the chat so that if you wanted to go back and look in some more of the training resources, you have the ability to do that. Okay.
So Ashley, our chat doesn't go out to the audience. So what we'll do is go ahead and put it into the chat. And then when we web our resources that we do at the end of each live stream, we'll put it up there.
Perfect. And Kim has it as well. We can also follow along with the district. So lots of different ways we can get this to you. But I did want to make sure that you do see that there are a lot of resources in here in case you're feeling like we're going too fast or you wanted to get some more basic information. This is a great place to get all of those things.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Lexi. And Lexi will start sharing her screen and we'll talk through reports in more detail. In the meantime, I know Kim has sent over a number of questions and topics to cover, so I'm just going to take a look at that and make sure that we're covering everything. And we'll regroup at the end to make sure that we hit on anything that we haven't hit on yet. And Lexi, we can see your screen. Oh, that was can see. We could see you. Sorry, go back to where you were.
Trying to unmute. There we go. Now,
Perfect.
Are we good?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Ashley. And hello, everyone. So we'll take a look at reports now. Because of the robust digital resources that Ashley shared that are designed to act as a companion to your instruction, in Zearn, you have access to real-time actionable data that summarizes exactly how students are doing in each lesson and where students continue to struggle. So there are two levels of teacher reports in Zearn. There are class level reports and student level reports. And that student level report is one of those new features that Ashley mentioned that's only available in your school account. So we'll start by taking a look at these classroom level reports. These are designed to be used really regularly throughout the week, at least once a week, if not every day, to just support and inform your daily instruction. Within class reports, there are 4 types of reports. 2 of them zero in on student lesson pacing and progress. So productivity, in other words, and 2 of our reports focus on student struggle. So I'll just kind of highlight those. We're looking at the PACE report right now. The PACE and progress are the 2 that highlight productivity, and the tower and sprint alerts highlight student struggle. So the PACE report, which is what we're looking at now, helps you keep students on track to complete their weekly digital lessons. Again, aligned to the lessons you're teaching, hopefully. This top chart provides a summary of how your class is progressing toward the lesson completion goal over the last 4 weeks. And by scrolling down, you can also view real-time student level data on the number of lessons students have completed, again, over the last 4 weeks. And we can click into any one of these columns. These reports are very interactive. So I just put students in order by how many lessons they've completed. And that just helps you zero in on students who may be falling behind or moving more slowly and needing some support from you. By clicking into a specific cell here, we can see exactly what lesson a student has completed and when, and how long they were logged into Zearn to complete that lesson. And over on the right, you can see the last time students logged in. So as students are working either in the classroom with you or working from home, you can see that students are logging in and accessing their Zearn practice. A couple of key things to zero in on when you're looking at the PACE report here. It's just zeroing in on students who may be struggling, making sure that everybody's logging in and has access to their accounts, to their activities, and then thinking about what may be the support that's needed for the students who are falling behind or struggling a bit. And for that, we'd recommend zeroing in on the tower alerts. So the tower alerts are there to help you understand when students are struggling in that digital exit ticket that Ashley pointed out, the Tower of Power, that final activity of the digital lesson. And when students are struggling in that Tower of Power, they experience really helpful personalized remediation to help break down a concept and scaffold understanding for them, right where they're struggling. And when that's happening, you're receiving, as a teacher, a real-time alert called a Tower Alert. And it looks like this. It comes on this little purple card. It's specific to a student and a lesson. You can see when and how often a student struggled by these orange exclamation points here. And you can also see if a student is still struggling or if they've completed that lesson independently with the help of our boosts. So you can see here that Porter struggled twice on Wednesday, and he has yet to complete this lesson, as indicated by those 2 exclamation points here. Whereas Jesse experienced boost as well, but the boost helped Jesse, and he was able to complete this lesson independently. We show that with that green check mark. What's nice about this report is it's a great place to look for students who are struggling and maybe need support from you in order to move on. It's also a great report to just check in and look for opportunities to celebrate students who have met that productive struggle, but persevered and kept going. You can click this hide completed here. It's going to show only your students who are still stuck in a lesson, needing support in order to move on. And you can filter this report in a number of other ways. So over here on the left, you can filter by date, by number of struggles, by individual students, and by content. So one of the things you can do here is click into the grade and the mission you're teaching, check in on the lessons you taught this week, and this essentially groups students for you by content so that you could potentially pull smaller targeted mini lesson groups to revisit content from the week that students may be struggling with. Okay, so I'm going to transition here and pull up the next level of reports here. So I got a quick glance at the 2 most important classroom level reports. This next report is called the student level report. And as I mentioned, this is only available to you in your new school account. So a good reason to transition over to your district account through Clever, where you'll have a student level report to complement that class level data. So while our class level reports are designed to be used throughout the week to summarize and highlight areas of potential concern like lesson pacing or student struggle, these student level reports are designed to be a more comprehensive and in-depth look at a given student across longer periods of time. This report can be used for identifying additional intervention needs, supporting student IEPs, or communicating student progress with parents or caregivers. And keep in mind, these reports can be shared across teachers and coaches and interventionists so that every educator working with a child can stay on the same page. So this example report is for Suzanne Jones, who's a fictitious 5th grade student. You can see up here at the top which class she's assigned to and when she last logged in. You also have the option to print these reports here with this print option in the right corner here. Right underneath that, we can see what lesson Suzanne is assigned to, as well as whether she struggled at all in that lesson with those exclamation points for Tower and Sprint alerts. And we can see how long she's been working on this lesson shown by the start date stamp here. And right underneath that, we can see what lesson Suzanne is assigned to, as well as, oops, I already said that, sorry about that. Right underneath that, we have 3 tabs for each student. The first tab is on lesson pace and progress, where we can see exactly what content Suzanne has worked on. And we have a summary here that lets us know what Suzanne has completed this week, this month, and this year. We can also see that information will be broken out by grade level, so we know what portion of these lessons have been on foundational content from earlier grades or grade level content. So here we can see Suzanne completed 1 grade 4 lesson earlier this month and 11 foundational lessons from grades 3 and 4 throughout the whole school year. And we can also see bonus totals for any students who have enrichment goals or have additional time for challenge activities. And as we scroll down, we can see similar lesson completion data, just represented a different way, this time as a comprehensive summary of digital lessons completed, across all grades, missions, and topics over a student's entire time on Zearn. And that's one of the great things about students' accounts rolling over within your district accounts from year to year. So you have this longitudinal view of students' work on their digital lessons. So for Suzanne here, who's worked on Zearn for a few years, we can see that she completed all of grade 2 and grade 3 lessons in prior years, as well as a portion of grade 4. And she's now assigned and working through grade 5. We can also double click into a mission like we've done with grade 5 mission 4 here to see a breakdown of what lessons Suzanne has completed by topic, as well as if she completed any bonuses. We'll indicate those with a star, and if her teacher has skipped her over any lessons. So we've had a lot of requests for this type of summary report at the individual student level, particularly for IEPs and parent or caregiver conferences. The second tab in the student level report is focused on student struggle. And this is based on the Tower alerts, just like with the class report, but this time it's focused just on Suzanne and her individual areas of struggle. So at the top here, we have a quick summary of Suzanne's alerts, again by week, month, and year. And as we scroll down, we have a clear view of where Suzanne has struggled by mission, by topic, and by lesson. You can see this information both for the content that Suzanne is assigned to, as well as for any earlier content she may have completed. She's a 5th grader, so 5th grade is expanded for her, and her total struggles are listed up here at the top. And then you have a clear view of how those struggles sort of fall out throughout the missions this year as she's worked through Zearn. So you can see in the first couple of missions, she actually had a pretty strong start when she was working with place value and base 10. And then as she gets into fractions, especially in mission 3, and particularly in mission 4, when she's starting to multiply and divide, she really starts to struggle the most. But when we open up that mission and we look by topic, we can see she actually had a pretty strong start to this mission as well. And it wasn't until she got into topic E, she really started to struggle the most. And that kind of continues again in topic G. So as Suzanne's teacher, we may want Suzanne to work on some foundational content to address any unfinished learnings from last year that might be impacting her success with her grade level work. And so that's where our second new intervention resource comes in. So based on information regarding student struggle, you can now use our new foundational lesson guidance. And Ashley pointed this out. It's located on the mission page for every single grade and every mission to quickly identify precise foundational content that will provide support to students who have moved past that point of productive struggle in their grade level lessons. This foundational lesson guidance resource, as I mentioned, is available for every mission and every grade, and it includes a clear and precise recommendation at the topic level on critical foundational lessons from earlier grades that will support students with unfinished learning so they can continue to learn productively in their grade level work. So this is an example from grade 5, mission 4, where Suzanne is working. And if we zero in on that topic where she started to struggle the most, topic E, right now we're on topic A, so I'm just going to scroll down to topic E. You can see that we recommend 2 4th grade lessons, one from 4th grade mission 5 and one from mission 7. These lessons focus on visual models and multiplication of fractions, lessons that use some of the same models that are being used in 5th grade lessons that she's working on. And connecting these ideas to the tape diagram from an earlier grade may be the key to completing Suzanne's unfinished learning that's holding up her progress. And if Suzanne struggles in those grade 4 lessons, which is certainly possible, you'll often notice that Zearn provides one more layer, like here, an opportunity to revisit a series of lessons to support filling in those foundational understandings of fractions. And keep in mind, this isn't to say that these lessons are a silver bullet, that by Suzanne completing these lessons, she'll have perfectly mastered any unfinished learning. Our approach is really multi-layered and all about options. So first, every student has those adaptive number gym activities that Ashley pointed out. There's built-in on-ramps within their grade level math content. There's that just-in-time remediation that they experience when they make mistakes. And it's all built into the digital lesson. And beyond that, there are these additional layers of guidance for teachers, from 1 to 3 layers of foundational lesson support to provide a short and possibly critical refresher on foundational skills that may be just enough to get students back on track with their grade level work. We really think about Zearn as having many just-in-time supports for all students that are just automatically built into their experience. And then there are some just-in-case options that teachers get to control. And so to prompt students to work on these intervention lessons, you can either follow those steps that Ashley pointed out to assign the students to these foundational lessons so it will show up as the full lesson experience in their next step student feed, or you can have students use their foundational content library through My Stuff on their login screen to access just the guided practice and Tower of Power. And we can talk through how to do that if that's helpful. I want to jump back to the student level report one more time just to show you the last tab that you have available, which is this all activity tab. So here in the all activity part, you can also see at the top the total amount of time a student has spent on Zearn for the week. Below, this report provides a clear view of all the individual activities a student has completed digitally on Zearn. So when a student completes each activity, we'll have a record of the date they completed it, the grade level of the content, and the type of activity it is. Number gym activities, which Ashley pointed out briefly, those are adaptive. So notice there's not a grade level assigned to them, but if a student struggles in fluency or a Tower of Power, teachers, you can just click right into that link to explore further. Another great use for this report is when you're at all confused or concerned about why students didn't complete a digital assignment on a given day, or if a parent or caregiver emails and says their child did do Zearn, but your PACE report shows you that the child didn't complete a lesson. This report is going to help you see exactly what your student did do on Zearn. Maybe they spent a long time on a single activity like a bonus, or possibly the student didn't log in at all. Again, the purpose of this information is just to really help you and your students use their time on Zearn productively. We know this is particularly important as we're, rounding out the beginning part of the year with remote learning, and as students hopefully transition back to the classroom in the near future. This will be helpful in either environment. So I'm going to pause here and hand it back over to Ashley, unless Ashley, you want to direct me to another part of the lesson while I'm still sharing my screen. Otherwise, go ahead and transition.
No, that's great. I will take over. So one thing I wanted to pick up on just is to go into a little more detail about how you can actually set those assignments to foundational content. So I'm going to go back to presenting. And as soon as I get my screen share up, you will see that. And Josh or Lexi, let me know if you don't see my roster page. So again, as Lexi was pointing out, if you wanted students to go back and work on those foundational lessons, there are two ways to do that. You could assign them to that foundational content. So you would go through the same rostering page, you would go through the same assignment process as we've talked about before. What's important to remember is that students have one assignment. So when they're logging into their account, which I'll show you in a second, they can only have one assignment. That's the core of where they're working, and that's where they'll be prompted to work on next. So you have the option to move them to the foundational content. So that is their core assignment, but keep in mind that does take them off of their grade level assignment. The alternative way, which is honestly how we see most teachers use the foundational lessons, is to actually keep students on their core grade level content and have them use something called My Stuff in order to access those materials. So I have a second account open here. I've logged in as a student. Again, keep in mind students are logging in through their district portal. When they get to their account, their page looks something like this. So when I talked about their core assignment, their main assignment, this is based on where you have them assigned and from your roster page. The activities that they see are directly aligned to that. So this student happens to be assigned to grade 3, mission 1, lesson 6, which I can see as a student right up top. I can see exactly where I'm working in my lesson sequence, so I know whether I'm towards the beginning or end of that lesson. And I really only have one place to click, and that's start. That's the next activity that I need to work through in order to keep working through my lesson assignments. If you want students to stay on their grade level assignment, so this is the core of what they're working on, but during specific times, or if they have extra time, go back and work on some of those foundational lessons. The other way that they can do that is by using this My Stuff option. So My Stuff is where students can see badges for lessons they've completed. You'll also notice that if I click into any of these, this is also where I could access that bonus question. So as I mentioned, we don't prompt students to work on the bonus because it is not a good fit for all students. It would be a time waste. But for students who would benefit from some enrichment or have completed their lessons for the week, this is where they can access the bonus for any lessons they've completed. So that's a great use of time. Again, if students finish their lessons early, go back and do bonuses for the lessons they've completed in the unit you're teaching. The other thing students can do from here is those foundational lessons. So you notice I can't move forward. I can't go to lessons I haven't yet completed or been assigned to, but I can go backwards. So I happen to know that for grade 3 mission 1, some of the foundational content is in grade 2 mission 6. So you might say to your students, use your arrow back in my stuff to go to grade 2 mission 6, which I do have the indication up here up top if you're comfortable with them knowing they're going back to an earlier grade. Sometimes teachers just refer to it as the name equal groups, which you can see directly in your curriculum page. And from equal groups, they'll say go to lesson 6 and complete that lesson. So I can just go directly to lesson 6 and I can do just the core of that lesson, just the guided practice and the Tower of Power. So this is a way for me to work on the core of the lesson with this foundational content while I have extra time in practice, while still staying assigned to my main content in Next Step. So this is the other way for students to work on foundational lessons. And again, I would say that we honestly often find teachers use this approach, particularly when students are doing 1 or 2 or 3 foundational lessons, but not doing whole topics or missions worth. They use this approach of going through my stuff. If you are moving students back to do a more holistic approach to foundational content, they're going to be working in that for a whole mission or multiple topics. Reassigning them there may be easier. It's totally up to you. But again, just keep in mind that students have one assignment and that's what shows up in their Next Step. They can access foundational content from my stuff if they want to. Okay. So let me do this. I'm going to take a look at my notes and just make sure. I know Kim is probably the most diligent TOSA I've ever met. And so we're so grateful for her to have sent us a number of questions she wanted to make sure we covered. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment and make sure I can see that screen so I can just make sure that we've covered off on everything that we promised Kim we would cover off on. So just as a quick summary and reminder of what Zearn is and is not. So Zearn is an interactive digital adaptation of Eureka Math. It has a warm-up, a lesson guidance with a video recorded teacher and practice and review. It does work nicely as an introduction, as homework to the main lesson, and or can provide support where there is learning loss. So all of those things can be great. It is not adaptive. It is set up to proceed in the same order as Eureka. So teachers can assign lessons out of order, but Zearn will not do that. They're going to work through the lessons in order aligned to Eureka instruction. And finally, Zearn is only available in English, although there are a lot of ELL supports. Please keep in mind that there is not a Spanish version at this point. Kim does have some ideas, and we'll post some examples later on our website. Okay, so hopefully this is a summary. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt here because we're coming down to the end of our time.
Yes.
And George and Celia tell me that we have some questions that the teachers have submitted.
Fire away.
The first one might be pretty quick, and Kim, you might be the person to answer because it's specific to our district, just in terms of what the district supplement to math is. And so I know that some sites have levered, and so this question is coming from Katie at Montebella. Just in terms of, just to clarify, the district supplemental program is Zearn. Is that correct?
I don't know that there's an official district supplemental program. These are all options, including so yes.
And so if somebody wanted support.
But we're not supporting levered, so
gotcha.
I know nothing about it.
All right, perfect. Let's see, I'm gonna go with the next one. This is another just kind of logistical one. Can students access Zearn after 5 p.m. or on the weekends?
Absolutely. Zearn is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Awesome. Somebody asked, let's see, who is this? Mr. Mederos at Chavez. It seems like he needs to change his title on Zearn. So I guess maybe once he's on his account, I'm not sure. But is there a way to change their title?
I know the answer to that one.
Great. Go ahead, Kim.
They have to go talk to who, that's coming from PowerSchool. It goes from PowerSchool through Clever to their account. So that has to be changed in the district.
And also keep in mind that the title doesn't influence anything on Zearn. So unless you have the wrong access level, like you should be an administrator and not a teacher. If your title is off or even your grade is off, it is not going to impact your or your student's experience. The content that you assign them is whatever content you assign them, regardless of what grade the class says or your teacher account says. So if you're just wanting to get started, don't worry about title and grade. You can certainly fix that through the district, but it doesn't influence anything on Zearn.
Great, thank you. This is George here, and I have a couple of questions that I'm kind of going to combine for you. And by the way, we got a lot of questions from the K2 teachers, so Kim, just a heads up for you.
Okay.
That's where it seems to be a lot of need on here. But the question is, and I think you already kind of shared a little bit, what's the easiest way to get first graders started with Zearn? And related to that is, if they log in through the portal, when they have their icon, do the students need to input another password, or will it automatically just get them into Zearn? I think those might be related.
Yes. Okay. So great question. I'm going to share my screen again. So in terms of how students, how to get them started, modeling is often the best thing that we see. So modeling for your students, how to log in, how to engage with the digital activities is the best way to get them started. You can do that through, I'm going to share my screen again. Give me a sec to get it up and running. So when you're back on this page, and it's going to kick me off because I'm logged out, but I'm going to log back in. When you're back on this page, one of the best things that you can do as a teacher for modeling with your students, I'm going to log into my account. Please remember, you don't log in this way because this is not specific to your district. But when you log into your account, you will land on the same page. This tries your math as a student. If I click view student feed, this shows me a student account. This is a demo student account that you can use to model for your students how to work through each activity. Make sure you get some wrong, help them see how to work the remediation path, but just modeling how to work through the activity is one of the best things you can do to get your students started. For students, when they log in, the very first time they log in through their district portal, which again is called Clever, and they're going to click on the Zearn tile, they're going to have an option that says, have you done Zearn lessons on Zearn before? They're only going to see this on their first login. It is just that first login. They'll never see it again. And if they click yes, they're going to be prompted to enter their existing username and password. So this is if they've been using Zearn all year and you want them to preserve the badges they've had this year and pick back up where they left off, they could put in those credentials right here, and that will merge their accounts. So their old individual account will be pulled into their new Clever account, and that old account will be tossed away. If students don't have an account, if you don't care about merging that progress, or you literally just don't care at all about whether students keep their badges, they can click no and just get started. Again, please make sure to go to your roster page and make sure everyone does get set to the right place, regardless of whether they merge their account or not. But this is the only time they will see this roadblock, when they have the chance to merge their account. Please do not worry if they don't merge their account. It does not change the experience going forward. It is simply whether they keep their badges from this year and pick up where they left off. If they don't merge their account, you can easily just set them to the content they left off on and keep working.
Thank you. You actually got right to the next question, which was going to be about a teacher who's actually been using Zearn and they don't want their students to lose their, their badges and all that. So this would be a way to do it. Now, question that I would ask is, if they click no, and they kind of doesn't connect the accounts, is that it? That's the only option. That's the only time that they have to be able to connect them, right?
That is correct. From a privacy perspective, we can't have students trying multiple attempts to connect their account. So they have one shot. So if you wanted to keep your badges, if you've had students using all year, please make sure to emphasize this. And I'll put this in the chat for you guys to share as well afterwards. This two-step process happens one time when they log in the first time. And this is the way to merge their account. If they click no or they enter in the wrong credentials, it will not merge their account, and there is not a way to go back and redo it. But please keep in mind, I promise it won't end up making a big difference. So please don't get too stressed or worry too much about whether they merge their account. It is an option, but it's not the end of the world if they don't do it. It's a very much a nice to have.
Perfect, thank you. There's one more question. And one reminder, so just again, because we have our school accounts, our school and district accounts, there's no need for a password for the students. They're going straight from their portal one. So we don't need to mess with passwords or ID numbers, like all that's rostered automatically. So that's a reminder. And the last question that we have is, in terms of communicating progress to maybe parents, those reports that we were shown, is there a way to export those without taking a screenshot so that like maybe teachers can send those to parents, if they have them connected on Google Classroom or they have parents connected on Seesaw, which are our two main platforms, like how would they send those reports to a parent, for example?
Yeah, so I would encourage only sending the student report because obviously the other reports have other students in it. But the student report is designed to be shared. So you can simply press print and you can just print it as a PDF, which will save it to your computer. And then you can attach it to an email, or if you have other platforms or portals that you're using to engage with parents, you can post that there. Again, please don't use the class report because it would include other student data, but the student report is specifically designed so you could share this with parents. And that print option will give you the option to either print as a PDF or physically, depending on how you're engaging with parents.
Perfect. And actually, we had a kind of a follow-up. Sorry, I know we always do this. We say it's the last question, and then it's not. There's a follow-up about the merging. So Miss English at Creekside is saying that she has tried to get the students to merge, but several of her students are not on her roster from the old, like her individual Zearn account.
So if you are logging into your account through your district portal and you're on your roster page and you see students missing, please keep in mind that information is coming directly from PowerSchool. So that's definitely something you'll want to connect with your school and or district IT team just to ensure that the correct students are coming through on your roster. That is information, again, is directly from PowerSchool. So anything that's not showing up on your roster within your account is something you'd want to make sure is corrected in the PowerSchool.
Perfect, thank you. We did have a couple more questions, but just popping in, the live stream has a slight delay, but I think these are more specific to our district. And so maybe we can relay those to Kim to follow up with. So I think we're good from our end.
We're good on the Zearn end as well. Kim, I saw you mentioned you wanted to have a few words at the end. So we just are grateful for the time and are excited to have you all using the resources and are excited to support you this year. And I'll turn it over to Kim for final words.
I want to thank Ashley and Lexi for coming to do this. It's been a lot of work off of my plate. I really appreciate it. And the one thing I wanted to say was I will send out to all the teachers the link again for the Zearn survey piece, so that if you have more questions, you can send that in to me because I'm still continuing to monitor that. Not the one from the live stream.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Lexi. We've been really honored and happy to have you come and help us on our live stream channel. We really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. For all of our Alisal Familia, it's Friday the 13th, guys, and it's 2020. That's a double whammy. In any case, have a great weekend. As we say at the end of every live stream, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and be good to our kids. Thank you, and have a great weekend. Bye.